I strongly believe humans are resilient and have survived many setbacks in the past, and I think we'll survive and thrive on the back of this as well. But that said, there's unprecedented uncertainty about our way of life and the future of business, and we really don't know the depth or duration of the current crisis. So now more than ever, I think it can be useful to look at the world in years rather than days, weeks, or months. It's during times like this that consumer habits change to better options at an accelerated pace. And when the economy recovers, those habits don't revert back. And this is a significant long-term positive for consumer technology companies. We're focused on companies that are long-term beneficiaries of this change in behavior. Given that we don't know depth and duration, we also have to be very conscious of balance sheet risk. The names that do float to the top, you named a few in Internet for safety, are Amazon, Alphabet, and Alibaba. Amazon's very clean in terms of fundamentals and a beneficiary of the current trends and future trends with a strong balance sheet, $50 billion in cash, $23 billion in long-term debt. Alphabet will certainly have demand issues given the cyclicality of advertising, but it's also a long-term beneficiary with a strong balance sheet, $120 billion of cash and $5 billion in long-term debt. Alibaba as well, $50 billion of cash and no long-term debt. I would also highlight Netflix as a beneficiary of these changing habits, but doesn't quite have the same balance sheet strength as the first three.
Now, I want to ask you about what I don't see on this list, and I would refer to this as perhaps the chicken breasts and toilet paper of technology. And I'm thinking PCs, Intel, things like that. This is technology that perhaps people had seen as rote, unsexy in the past, but during this coronavirus outbreak and working from home, PCs, which had been viewed as being dead from a growth perspective just a couple years ago, being seen as essential. You don't have those on your list. Is there a particular reason? Do you think the companies are in a tricky position, or do you think the essential nature of those is temporary?
The only real reason is it's not part of my coverage area, so that would come from a different Stifel analyst. But certainly there are trends more broadly across technology, including enterprise tech and PCs, I think that could lead to investment ideas as well. But our focus is on consumer tech and specifically Internet.
So, Scott, I'm curious about Peloton on this list. I get on the one hand, you could see more people starting to order some of these workout bikes and the like and doing more exercises at home and becoming subscribers, and that could be something that's sticky. On the other hand, so many of the users, so many of those subscribers are on payment plans with so much focus on lending and on credit and on just potential economic hardship for Americans out there. How much of a risk is that?
Certainly, Peloton is one of the trickier ones on the list. But I do think that long-term, with what's happening right now in terms of the change in habits from exercising outside the home to in the home, is accelerated by what's happening. But as you mentioned, Morgan, there are offsets to that, particularly in the short term. There's a potential negative demand impact from a very high ASP item, even if it is financed. On top of that, in the case of Peloton, you do have the fact that they're not delivering treadmills at the moment, and they're leaving the bikes at your doorstep to bring inside so that they don't put their own employees at risk. So there are short-term headwinds for Peloton, but I do believe that when we do get to the other side of this, that change in the consumer's minds on the outbound side in terms of delivery guarantees, I think consumers have to be somewhat patient given the circumstances, and it's very possible that with what's happening in the supply chain, that does get worse before it gets better. Having said that, Amazon's one of the few companies within our coverage list at which the near-term impact on their business actually could be net positive relative to everything else, given the significant shift in purchasing habits to those essentials.
All right. Scott Devitt, watching the Internet space specifically. We appreciate you being with us. Scott.